Hello and welcome to a very late episode 170 of the Mouses Makes Knitting Podcast. My name is Mandy, sometimes known as Mouse, and I am so sorry that I've been missing for a few weeks. I just really have been very poorly and I'll say I'm now like 2 to 1, good days to bad days. So definitely, hopefully, on the right path. But yeah, if there are some episodes missing still, and if I'm a bit like this, that's why. Yes, sorry. So, I'm wearing, as I promised you I would a month ago, I'm wearing my Saltmarsh Cove that I finished. I loved knitting the pattern. I am not very keen on this bit at the front. I think, I do intend to knit it again, but what I'm going to do is probably ribbing. I do prefer ribbing. I've put ribbing on the bottom, and I think I will probably bring the short rows round so I've got more of this shape neck, because this is just annoying me. I don't suit an envelope neck. My body is not the right shape for it. My double chins don't fit in it very well. My double chins are particularly double at the moment because they're all full of water. So, yes, not doing so well. The Saltmarsh Cove is by Laura Ayler, Fogbound Knits. And as I say, I really enjoyed knitting it, but I can see that this is going to be an issue. I must also address the fact that I am filming by electric light, despite the fact that it is 11 o'clock in the morning and the sun is shining, because the sun is shining in the wrong place. I must also apologise if you can hear dishes clanking. It is my neighbour, who is almost entirely deaf and has no idea how much noise she makes. So, on to proper things. Let's try not to knock everything on the floor. The topping out mal that I've been running with Belinda of Belinda's Baubles has finished. And so we're going to draw for some prizes. There were a lot of entries. Entry was on Ravelry or by email, in which case Belinda or I would add you to our Ravelry threads. You could enter into both mine and Belinda's to give a double chance of winning a prize. And I have to say, there were quite a few entries. That's just finished objects. What I did yesterday evening was I made a list and I took names from both my thread and Belinda's and I jumbled them all up. So I'm going to draw for that in a minute. Special mention must go to Knitting Bandit 1, who had the most entries. I don't know what else you've been doing for the last 3 months apart from knitting, because it was just, please excuse my hair, it was just mind-blowing the amount that she has entered. That's on the floor now. I myself, and I haven't knit or crocheted or cross-stitched much at all during March. For a lot of it, I was just so poorly, I was just in bed or I was just sitting in a chair. I didn't even have the energy to craft, which is when you can tell I'm proper poorly. But over the 3 months, it started on the 1st of January, ended on the 31st of March, I have finished all hung over whips from previous years, 4 blankets, 2 tees, including this one, and 3 pairs of socks, which is way down on my sock plans, but never mind. I'll get on to showing you what I've finished during March in a minute. But first, we're going to draw for some prizes. I had intended to draw a pattern prize during the month of March, and obviously I haven't podcast, so I couldn't draw the prize. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw it now. So I'm going to pause while I ask you know who to pick a number, and this is going to be for a pattern of your choice. Let me just pause.
131. It's 25.
Okay.
You got heads.
Well, that happens to be Denise dear. So Denise, you know how to get in touch with me. Let me know what pattern you would like. So that's separate to the finished objects. That is, sorry, the finished object prizes. That is one that I meant to draw during the month. Okay, so the first prize I'm going to draw for is this leather bag made by my husband Dave, and into it I have put this sock set, which I thought went with the bag. Okay, so let me explain how I'm drawing it. I'm getting you know who to give me a number, and then most of these numbers have got 2 names on that number. So then I'm asking her heads or tails for the first or the second name. So let me call her name again. Give me a number between 1 and 131.
Here's a number between 1 and 131. It's 49.
49. Well, I've got no need to ask her head or tails because they both are the same person. So the aforementioned Knitting Bandit 1, you have won this green bag and the sock set within it. You know how to get hold of me, but just to remind you, it is mousesmakes@gmail.com. I haven't had to do this for a while, and as I said, my brain is still a little bit. I've been describing it to my friends as being pudding. It is in fact pudding. That's all my brain is. So I remember now as well that I was going to write these down so that I could put them on the screen. So it was Denise dear, the pattern, and Knitting Bandit 1 for the bag. Okay, I'm only offering one other prize. Belinda has a lot of prizes put aside, and I really suggest, because we're both drawing from both threads, that you go and watch her next episode, where I presume she will be doing the draw. If you could also subscribe to her, if you haven't done so already, that would be great, because really that's the only benefit that we get from, apart from the fun of it, from doing these make-alongs. And I think Belinda would be grateful of some more follows. Okay. So this next prize is going to be one of my gradient sets that I will dye up personally for you. You can choose from the options that I have. It will be dyed especially for you to order. None of these are in stock. So if there was a colour combination that you wanted me to do instead, we can discuss that. So that's the next prize that I'm drawing for. Let me pause again while I do the yell. Give me a number between 1 and 131.
Here's a number between 1 and 131. It's 64.
I think she's getting fed up with me now. She took a long time to answer. Okay. This is awkward because the same person is on number 64, but the same person is on number 64 along with somebody else. So, Knit Alley, you have won a gradient set. If you would like to email me at mousesmakes@gmail.com, we can discuss what you would like. I can give you a link to my Ko-fi shop so you can have a look at what's on offer, and then if you let me know if there's a colourway there that you would like. If not, we'll talk about if I can do one specially for you. Okay, let me write that down. You have probably got, all of you, let's say till the end of April to get back to me. If I don't hear from anyone by the end of April, I will redraw the prize. I think that's fair. Okay. That's that all done. Let me just move this out the way because I'm going to have to get up in a minute. I have managed to finish some things. Sorry, I should say I'm rushing on because I'm so out of practice. My brain is whirring away inside, trying to remember what I have to do. Yes, congratulations to the winners, and thank you so much everybody who entered. There have been some truly beautiful makes. My list of things that I want to make has grown considerably, which was not necessary, but these things happen. So yeah, thank you everybody. I'm sure Belinda will have much the same to say because it's very hard when you keep saying these pretty things. Yeah, let's not go there. Right, I have finished a couple of things during March. These are actually my February socks. They're just plain vanilla socks. Knitting Opal's Who Ate All My Windows. Honestly, that's what it's called. With the heel and toe done in West Yorkshire Spinners turmeric. The plan was 2 pairs of socks in January, 2 in February, 2 in March. Technically I have 2 socks finished for March, but they are not a pair, so that doesn't really count. I am working on them. I've honestly at the moment I've just abandoned that idea. If I can finish a pair of socks a month, I will be happy. I'll have about 12 pairs because some of them won't be for me in my box of socks to gift to myself at Christmas, so it'll be fine. What else can I tell you about these? I'm so out of practice. I'm so sorry. I think even my first episode was better than this. They're the vanilla recipe that I use for myself, which is to use 2.5, 64 stitches, 2.5mm for the leg and the heel flap, and then I switched to a 2.25mm for the foot and the toe, and that just fits me perfectly. I don't really think there's much more to tell you about those, so I'm going to put them down. The other project that I've finished is a little bit more interesting. You can see it here. I've finished. It's very heavy. It's also the wrong side, but it doesn't really matter. My crochet squared blanket which when I saw you last, I had done the first strip and I had 96 squares. Now when I'd planned the blanket, I had measured it out and I'd planned it to fit the top of my double bed, and I'd worked out I needed 120 squares. So I put a few more strips together and I laid it on the bed to see. I'm doing this because I can't seem to insert photographs anymore, so this is my compromise. And as you can see, it didn't cover the whole top. And I had a couple of options. One was to make a border that was as wide as each square so that it would increase the width by a square's width all the way around. That was going to take an awful lot of the black yarn that I was joining it with. Or, and I'd done 4 rows at this point, crochet another 24 squares to make up the missing 24 squares. And whilst I really didn't want to do that, that was the option that I went for in the end. So I went through all my stash of minis and leftovers and found colours that would go in with, because the strips are arranged kind of in colour families. Not really though, because I've thrown in other colours that go with the colours of the strip to try and tie it all together. It is huge, it is heavy, but I'm very, very pleased with it. You may have seen it, I put it on Instagram. I'm going to try and show it to you in a minute, but I will show you a photograph, which will probably be a lot easier if I can find it. Here we go. So that's it in its entirety, complete with cat. You can't see the colours terribly well because of the light and the screen, but what I tried to do was go from winter through spring and summer to autumnal colours. It made sense to me. No, don't close it, you need it still. Right, I am now going to attempt to stand up there and show you the blanket. Okay. This is going to be a disaster. I can tell that already. And I haven't got room to stand up. I've got so much stuff that I can't move my feet in order to stand up. Right. If I fall over, nobody laugh. Okay. Oh no, you need to come around a bit more. Hang on. Okay. So this is the bit that you saw before. This strip, this blue strip was all I had last time you saw it. But now I have all of this. That is possibly the least effective showing of a blanket that anyone has ever done. It's a bit hard to see. It's a bit hard to manipulate. It's very heavy, as I said. Sorry. I expect you want to still look at me. I'd rather you didn't, but hey-ho. Each square is 7 rows. Yeah, 7 rows of trebles in the UK, doubles in the US. And then I went round each square, the squares are made with fingering weight held double. All my own hand dyed or from Yarn Unique. And then I went round each square with a larger hook and DK black acrylic from Yarn Smiths. And then I would put them together in a strip and then join the strip onto the blanket as I went. When I finished, I went round and I did a crab stitch border. And I rather regret now that I didn't do a treble round first and then the crab stitch border, because it just looks a little bit, it would have been a bit thicker. Hindsight is a wonderful thing, but I'm very pleased with it. I love the colours. Lily, my cat, as you saw, was quite pleased with it as well. So now I've shown it to you, I can put it on my bed. It's quite hard to fold up. You just have to bear with me while I wrestle it. Okay. See, this is already annoying me because it's touching my neck. So that's all I managed to finish during March. Not a very good show. I have almost finished. Let me recap. If you're new, or if you haven't seen what I'm, or if you've just forgotten because it's not very interesting, I have this jar. And in this jar are many pieces of paper that have my whips written on them. Yellow is stuff and orange is blankets. So yellow is basically everything that's not a blanket. Should have done that the wrong way round. That way round to begin with. Pudding brain. So for March, out of that pot, I drew the blanket and my bubble sweater by Stephen West. Now, I've had a bit of an adventure with this. It probably would be finished because in the last week or so, I've done most of this. I have finished the body. It was there when I showed it to you last, so I've knit all of that. Some of it twice. Why, you may be asking yourselves. I'm sorry about the light. It seems to be blowing out a bit now. I think the sun's coming round more. I had to join on another ball. The black is, again, Yarn Smith's Create DK. 100% acrylic. And I joined on a ball. I think it was a ball that was left over from the blanket. And I'd been knitting it up in my bedroom because I've spent a lot of time in bed. And whilst I find round and round stocking stitch is very boring, it doesn't require a lot of brain space. So joined the ball on, knitting away, and then I happened to bring it downstairs because I was going to Zoom with some friends. And in the better light in the living room, I saw this. So this is the new ball that I joined in. I'm hoping you can see that. Now you'd think black would be black, wouldn't you? Bearing in mind it's acrylic. But no. The ball that I joined on made all the rest of it look like it had been left in the sun to fade. I couldn't possibly leave it, so I had to pull that out. I mean, you can see where I joined it on, there's that little bit there. Very annoying. But less annoying than had I finished it, put it on, worn it outside, and discovered that the bottom half was an entirely different colour. So I had to pull all that back and re-knit it. I'd thrown the ball band away, and in my brain foggy state, I thought I'll go through the bin and I'll see what dye lot that was to make sure that the dye lot that I put in is not that one, but the right one. So I got the kitchen bin out and I emptied it and I went through everything. It's not as gross as it sounds because we recycle waste food here, so there's not really anything particularly yucky in the bin. And then, having done that and failing to find it, I remembered that I'd actually joined it on while I'd been upstairs in bed, and that the bin from upstairs, because I'd joined it on a few days ago, had already gone with the dustman, and I was never going to find out what dye lot that was. So I've got some up there, and I checked what was up there with the ball that I had. I had another ball in the project bag, but rather than join that on, I tried to use up the yarn that was left over from the blanket. Big mistake. So I checked what was in there with what was up there, and yes, they were the correct dye lots. So I managed to finish the body. Just yesterday I picked up for the sleeve, and I want to do a sleeve, I don't know, that sort of length, I suppose. It's a DK sweater, it's going to be warm, so I think it needs, I don't want long sleeves on it, but it needs longer sleeves than just like this. Oh, now Dave is trying to ring me. I've already spoken to him once because I'm going to have to bounce his call. Right, sorry about that. Okay, so stopping waffle. Completely thrown now. Can you see why I haven't podcasted for a few weeks? This is me feeling better. Can you imagine what a mess it would have been otherwise? Nope, can't remember what else I was going to tell you. But by the time you're watching this, this will probably be finished. In which case, so long as it's not 1,000,000 degrees next week, I will put it on to show you. Okay. What else must I tell you? Let me see. Okay, having talked about the fact that I draw projects from my pot, I have drawn for April. It is now April. And the blanket I've drawn, because I'm doing a blanket every month, remember, is this one, which is a mosaic crochet blanket that I started last year. Now he's texting me. It's called the Meow Blanket by Rosina Payne, and there are 3 different sizes of blanket, I think, and a practice coaster. I'm going to show you my practice coaster. You have seen it before. It's terrible. It's wonky, but I am still using it. So after the flowers there will be cats. You might have gathered that from the fact that it's called the Meow Blanket. I'm looking to see if I have the pattern in the bag. I do not have the pattern in the bag. And I don't think there's a very good picture of it, but it will be linked below. All the patterns I talk about will be linked below. So I'm going to put a marker in, and hopefully by the time I see you next, it may not be next week. I need you to prepare yourselves for the fact that I may be skipping a few weeks for a little while until I'm like back to 100%, or as close to 100% as I ever am. I keep derailing myself. Yes, I'm making the smallest size of blanket. I've driven my family insane, can you tell? Poor Dave. And the plan for this is to go on the seat of my chair here. So it's all quite bright pinks. They're all leftovers from stash, leftovers from other things. The two pinks were from a temperature blanket I did in 2020. What a year to commemorate. And there's another pink, a much darker. This one, which I think the cats are going to be, I can't remember what I worked it all out to be. I'll talk to you next time and I'll have a better idea what I'm doing. I've left these two ends dangling because then I know which is the bottom. Because if I say I don't know which way is up at the moment, I mean that literally. And the other project I pulled, the garment project, is a Sirdar pattern. It's a Sirdar dual spun Aran pattern, and it's this one, which is design number 10720. I will link that below as well. And I'm knitting this in Sirdar dual spun Aran, which is almost unheard of. I'm actually using the right stuff. This I think is called, and I get this wrong, it's either the Eventide or the Evergreen cardigan. It's one or the other, but it's not listed by its name as a pattern. It's only listed by its number, so it doesn't really matter. And I'm doing it in this colour, which is shade 0855 Sunstone Amber. And this is, I think, 100% acrylic. Yes, it is. But it's designed to look like hand spun. So it did appeal to me greatly. And I have this much of the back. As far as I remember, it's knit in pieces and then seamed. So I have some back. I will put a stitch marker in there so that we know. Oh, there's one there. I must have done this before. So really, I'm giving myself the whole of April for these projects. If I finish them before the end of the month, I may draw something else to be getting on with. But of course, I also have socks. Now, I should really be drawing 2 new balls of wool for this month's socks, but I still have one ball untouched from last month's socks, so I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to see how I go with socks. I might catch up to myself because socks are quite easy knitting. But yeah, I'm not putting any crafting pressure on myself at all at the moment. Try not to put any pressure at all on myself at the moment. But that may mean that there aren't as many podcasts as you would like. While I think of it, thank you to everybody who reached out to check I was okay. For those of you that don't know, essentially I had a really nasty cold that lingered for a good couple of weeks, and it set off my autoimmune disease, and my kidney function dropped, and when my kidney function drops, my brain function drops. So yeah, I've just been feeling proper rotten. But now I have almost cleared the virus. I've just got to wait for my kidneys to catch up. I've got fluid stored everywhere and toxins blocking up my brain. So yeah, bit scatty. Right, that is all the knitting stuff. I'm going to talk to you quickly about the shop update, very, very quickly. Essentially, going into the shop this coming Sunday will be the next 3 of the Advent Revisited skeins, and they are Dunluce Castle. Oh, that's coming out quite well actually. Snowdon. And Tenby Harbour. And apart from that, the only thing that's going in are the mystery colourways for this month of April, which are inspired by this photograph. So that's a set of 5 mystery minis or a full skein, a mystery full skein. The spring sets, so you would get March, April, May minis or full skeins, are still in the shop, as are the Advents. If you're planning on purchasing the Advent in 4 weekly bites, week 1 will be coming out of the shop on Sunday the 6th of April, and week 2 will be going in. Please make sure, if you're doing it that way, that you order the same Advent that you ordered last month, because I am easily confused, particularly at the moment. And that's it. I think that is everything. I don't think there's anything else to tell you. I must also apologise. I did promise you a cross-stitch episode on the 1st of April, and there is not one, because I haven't done any cross-stitch either. I did manage to finish that, but I think that was before, might have been before the beginning of March, or in the first few days. That's it. I've bought a load. I haven't actually stitched much. So I might leave it till the end of this month to do a cross-stitch episode. So there's actually something to talk about for those of you who watch that as well. And that really is it. So I'm going to go. I'm going to see what Dave was ringing me for. He's had a hospital appointment this morning and then gone on into work. But I have already spoken to him since the appointment, so I don't know. Don't know what he wants. I will quickly give you a bit of a life update. As well as me being not too good all through March, Peter had an accident, which was quite traumatic for everybody. He's fine, but he's still recovering from that. Mother's Day this last weekend, Friday, which was the 27th. Peter took me out for lunch because he finishes early on a Friday. It's the first time I'd been out the house in March. We had a lovely lunch. It was really, really nice actually. Spent Saturday recovering from that excursion, and then Sunday was Mothering Sunday here in the UK, and I just had a chilled day with the boys. We watched a Marvel film. Peter made me a cake, and Ewan bought me some weights, you know, dumbbells. So, not sure which of my children I love the most just at the moment. One was probably to counteract the other. Mother's Day was lovely until bedtime, when I went up to bed and discovered that Rocket, Ewan's cat, had thrown up in my Birkenstocks. Not on, in my Birkenstock clogs. That wasn't quite the present I was hoping for, but at least it wasn't a dead mouse, which is what I've had in the past. And then yesterday Dave and I went for a picnic at the beach, which was very nice. So I actually left the house twice in March, within 3 days of each other. But there you go. Hopefully April will be a little bit kinder to me. And I think that really is everything. So I'm going to go. I don't know when I'm going to see you again. I will try and see you again next week. But if I haven't done much, there's not a lot of point me trying to record. I'll have nothing to show you. I'll have nothing to talk about. As we've just established, I have mostly slept through March. So I'm going to say I'll see you when I see you. And until then, happy crafting. Bye guys.